Film Basement is filmed in sunny West Hartford, Connecticut, in front of a live studio audience.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Filmmaker's Basement. This week, Feline Free. I'm Brandon Gasparino.
And I'm Jimmy Lucarz. Eddie is out today, keeping the peace in the world. This is our pre-Oscars show when we talk about the nominations and who we think will win.
Speaking of those nominations, so last week we talked about the best performance by an actor in a leading role. But this week we're focusing on the performances by the actors in a supporting role, which are Tom Hanks in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Anthony Hopkins in The Two Popes, Al Pacino in The Irishman, Joe Pesci also in The Irishman, and Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So Jimmy, what do you think?
Well, I've seen a few of these movies. I have seen, The Two Popes, The Irishman, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Unfortunately, I did not get to see, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and yeah, that's it. So I do find it interesting that there are two nominations for The Irishman.
Yeah, no, I'm not the biggest fan of that. No, I'm sure they were great in their roles and all that. But at the same time, it's like I would have liked to see a little more diversity, at least among the movies.
I completely agree with you. I mean, you're having Joe Pesci, who's a good actor, and what's his nuts? Al Pacino. Yeah, that guy. Al, if you're watching, or Mr. Pacino, whatever you want to be called, don't hate me. Yeah. So anyways, if they're good in the movies, I would argue the movie is definitely long enough to constitute two movies.
That's also fair.
But so is Titanic. So now I wish that you had something else, because there's a lot of other movies out there that I'm sure have people that would be good supporting actors for this.
Yeah, there were a lot of good movies that came out this year.
Yeah.
They're certain they could have found something else to make that work.
What does surprise me, though, is how many times The Two Popes ended up on this. We'll see later that there's more of The Two Popes. But I mean, it's a Netflix movie, so it's kind of cool that Netflix is getting more stuff.
Yeah.
But then when I watched the movie, though I enjoyed it, I don't know, just because it's basically just two old men discussing and talking about philosophy and all that kind of stuff. It was enjoyable.
Yeah.
But that's all it is. It's just two guys talking. Again, I love the movie. Yeah. But I just never would think that it would have ended up on the list of Oscar movies.
Yeah, that was a little bit interesting. I mean, what do you think of them in that role?
Well, last week we talked about the best actor, best lead. On that, I forgot his name, but he was great in that movie. And I've been saying he needs to be playing Pope Francis since the get-go. Anthony Hopkins is Pope Benedict. That was a good choice. Okay. I mean, his German accent was lacking. He sounded like Anthony Hopkins playing Anthony Hopkins, but it was good. I think both characters, after, whatever actor wants is you to forget who you're watching. You want Brad Pitt to make you forget you're watching Brad Pitt. Yeah. So that way it worked. Okay, so in that vein, who do you think was your best supporting actor in this category? Out of the ones I saw, I wasn't that much of a fan of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, so that kind of kills it for me. I would say I enjoyed Anthony Hopkins the most in The Two Popes. I don't know, I enjoyed it. Even though it doesn't feel like a movie that would have ended up being nominated, I still enjoyed it. Maybe without looking back on it 5 years from now, I'll be like, yeah, that movie totally, but because it's still fresh in my mind. All right, you heard it here first, folks. Anthony Hopkins and The Two Popes gets the Oscar for this week. So moving on now, so Jimmy, what do you got for us now? So you're just going to be throwing all my amazing awards? Okay. The nominations for performance by an actress in a leading role nominees are Cynthia Erivo in Harriet, Scarlett Johansson in Marriage Story, I'm going to mispronounce Saoirse Ronan in Little Women, Charlize Theron in Bombshell, Renee Zellweger in Judy. So, Brandon, your thoughts? Unfortunately, Jimmy, I don't have any thoughts for this one. I'm sure you'll explain for us now why that is. Yes. Unfortunately, we did not see any of those movies on the list. Granted, all of these actresses are amazing in films that we have seen them in. But just like many of the people voting in the Oscars, we did not see these films, so sorry.
Yes.
They are on our list to watch. We just haven't had time.
It's truly unfortunate. I wish we could have gotten around to seeing them, but it just happens like that sometimes.
Yeah, it does. But if you guys have any thoughts on these movies, please put it in our comment section. Or if you're angry at us for not seeing these movies, please put it in the comment section, because we would appreciate any comments, since we never get any on any social media.
Too real, Jimmy. Too real. So, moving on from that, at the very least, we can talk about the actresses in, supporting roles. So, the nominations for performance by an actress in a supporting role are Kathy Bates in Richard Jewell, Laura Dern in A Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson in Jojo Rabbit, Florence Pugh in Little Women, and Margot Robbie in Bombshell. So, Jimmy, what are your thoughts here?
My thoughts are...
I know where I stand on this, but I don't know.
How many of the movies have you seen?
I only saw Jojo's Rabbit, unfortunately. But I will say I really did enjoy Scarlett Johansson in that role. She was a really good mother figure in a movie I wasn't expecting to have a really good mother figure. Because from what I saw in the trailers, she seemed like she was part of the movie, but she wasn't the focus. It seemed like the focus was going to be on this relationship between Hitler and the kid and the girl on the wall. But she kind of stuck out, honestly, in that. She was a really good, she was a really good mother figure in that movie. And I thought, seeing her progression, how she went along in that film, I'd say it's very deserved.
I also only saw Jojo Rabbit out of everything listed. However, again, I've heard tons of good things about Marriage Story,
Yes.
just constantly good things. I just didn't feel like watching a movie about a divorce. And then it is kind of weird that Scarlett Johansson is up for both Best Actress in a Leading Role for Marriage Story and for Jojo Rabbit for Best Supporting, which is cool. Hopefully, if she wins both, that's great on her resume.
That happens.
But I do agree with you about Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit, I never think of her as a married or a mother figure. Scarlett Johansson is just, Black Widow or something like that. But to look at her like a caring mother figure, she did that very well.
Yeah.
So.
And I think what was also really good was that she wasn't just relegated, because more often than not we see women relegated to just being the mother role.
Yep.
Or the old one, whatever that is. But she was also you didn't realize it throughout the film. She's this really good resistance character that she's been building up this entire time. Yeah. You just don't. It doesn't come up until it does, and when it does, you're like, oh my god! this is.
By the way,
you're also really good at
spoilers.
this role and believable.
Spoilers.
Oh, whatever, it's fine. But I think it's also good that there were these two parts of her that you don't see interact at all, but they also fit with each other really well.
Mm-hmm. All right, we should move on to the next topic.
Yes, but so in that case, our winner, Scarlett Johansson in Jojo Rabbit. Oh my god, that wasn't what I was expecting to do.
Yeah, to take out the camera.
Yeah, no kidding. So Jimmy, what do you got for us now?
Okay, shoot, that is me. The nominations for the Best Animated Feature Film of the year: How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, I Lost My Body, Klaus, Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. So, what do you think? I'm a big kid, so I saw.
Well, I was about to say, I know exactly where you stand on this.
Well, where do you stand? We'll get back to me.
I did see Klaus, and I did see a bit of Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4. How could you even go wrong there? Come on.
Thought you were gonna break my heart.
It's a Toy Story movie. They always nail those. But I really enjoyed Klaus. It kind of just came out of nowhere, and it was this really, really wholesome Santa Claus story that I wasn't expecting.
Klaus reminded me of. Do you ever see those stop motion Christmas movies?
Yeah, I love those movies.
The one where the story of Santa Claus.
Yeah.
He started off as that redheaded little bastard and then grew up to become Santa Claus. It reminded me of a modern take of that, which I'm not complaining about.
No, I can totally see that.
When I'm watching it, I'm just wow, this has elements that remind me of the other one. Granted, they're talking about Santa Claus and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Let's be real. The movies probably do need an update at this point. But yeah, I think that would be entirely deserved for me, at least.
But.
And then I know for you, though, on the other hand.
I enjoyed Klaus, and I enjoyed, what was the other one? I love Toy Story 4, and I'm pretty sure they're going to get the Oscar because it's Toy Story.
Yeah.
But I'm very biased here. I have loved the entire How to Train Your Dragon trilogy. I love how they took it from a kid just being this lost kid growing up and eventually becoming chief. I love the story of Hiccup and Toothless's friendship. I love the love story between Astrid and Hiccup. Every part of it, every movie was emotional in one way or another.
Yeah.
And they also had their Netflix series or whatever. All this stuff is just the world building that they did for this this movie, the show. And the movie was a good ending to that. So I don't know. Personally, I hope they win.
Yeah.
Though I feel like Toy Story might win because it's
Toy Story.
Yeah, and Pixar is awesome. Like they're like Marvel. They have never failed. I mean, I can't think of a time they failed.
Yeah, it's very hard to find one of those. I don't know. Personally, I would hope for something like Klaus to win, just because it's more. It's like it's the indie cat. It's the indie one out of all of those, where it's like, yeah, it's the Netflix film. It's not like made by, made by Pixar or DreamWorks or any of those. Like,
So who do we think is going to win?
who do we think is going to win, or who do we hope?
Who
is
do
gonna
we
win?
think? Because you want Klaus, I want How to Train Your Dragon. What do you think?
It's probably Toy Story.
I'm with
I
Toy
hate to say
Story.
it, but
So
it is
I'm
Toy
going to throw
Story.
this now.
All right, you throw that
because
one.
I don't want to hit a camera.
Yeah.
And I'm
Don't
gonna
worry.
hit-
I won't hit
and
a
then I'm
camera
gonna hit
the next
Eddie
time I
instead.
do it. There we go. Woo! Oscars.
All right, moving
All
on to the next one.
Moving on, getting hyped for one of our favorite categories here. We have Best Director. And the nominees for that category are Quentin Tarantino, Once Upon a Time, of course, Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, Sam Mendes for 1917, Todd Phillips for Joker, and Martin Scorsese for The Irishman. Jimmy, who is going to take it?
This should not surprise you. Sam Mendes, 1917.
Okay.
Here's why. Because I believe, from a director standpoint, that is the worst. That's the most difficult and challenging movie, and he nailed it.
Yeah.
Then, if you aren't familiar with the film is basically about World War I, and it's filmed to look like a one-shot. And I mean, there are cuts; they're hidden throughout, but they still have to do a lot of shots that are very long without cutting. And as you know, for a filmmaker, a lot can go wrong. A bird can fly into somebody, whatever. So that's challenging, and the fact that he actually nailed it, and he wrote the thing too. Like he has been behind this film since the very beginning.
Yeah.
I think he deserves it. I think the story's riveting. Like everything about this film is riveting. We'll get to the next get to another category, and I'll make that argument. But as far as director goes, yeah.
See, for me, I don't know where I stand on this, because I like 1917 a lot. Cinematic, like from a cinematography perspective, it's amazing. Story-wise, it's okay. It's not really like, for me, it's not like, I wouldn't go see that movie to see the story. I'd go see that movie to be in like the experience of having the one shot, which is I think that's the whole into that movie, and it does a great job there. I mean, Jojo. I did like what was the one I was thinking of? I mean, Parasite. I mean, that just took everyone by storm. So I'd say that's also. That's a pretty good contender.
I have not seen Parasite, but the thing is, Oscars does not necessarily go for what everyone likes.
Yes, it doesn't.
Because if they did, like back in 2011. 9, 8? All right, 2008, then, The Dark Knight would get it.
Yeah.
But, 2008 was The Dark Knight. So, I would argue 1917 for Best Director. I feel like if 1917 does not get Best Picture, it'll get Best Director.
Yeah, I could see one of those two things. The only weird one on this list for me is Joker, like Todd Phillips' Joker, which is, I don't know, I don't feel like I really got like...
It felt like a Scorsese film, and that's why they put it up there.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's anything special he really brought to that movie that like made it feel different.
I mean, he directed it.
I know, but that's why I'm like, there's nothing like I see from his directing style that's like, makes this movie for me. It's more just like, he did it, and it was good, but...
See, I wouldn't be opposed to him getting the Best Picture or Best Director for Joker, because it was great. I just think that out of everything on that list, 1917 is a far better movie. Like, I mean, it is interesting that Todd Phillips was able to take a comic book movie, comic book character, and make it into like an artistic film.
Yeah.
So, who do you think's going to win?
So for me, it's got to be. I think it's going to be Parasite for best director because Bong Joon-ho, he just can't. He can do no wrong. Every film he's made is gold.
I feel like I don't know.
All right.
Remember, angry white men are voting.
Yes, that's
so.
true. All right, so I assume you're voting for 1917 then?
I am.
All right, in that case, split the Oscar, Parasite, 1917.
1917 gets the base. Okay,
Yes,
whatever.
it gets the supporting part.
Let's move on to the next one. The nominations for Best Motion Picture of the year are Ford vs. Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. So, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I actually legitimately don't know like what I would choose on this list. I'm gonna be honest. Like I have my few that I'm like, oh, these are pretty good. But overall, I mean, I could kind of all see them winning in their own ways. Besides Joker again. Like just that one is just one feels like the odd man out of this whole list.
I feel like Joker is going to win. Like it's not on my list. Like it's a list of it should be nominated, but out of the movies mentioned, I don't know. I feel like Irishman's going to get it.
I could see Irishman, that one. I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I could also very much see because it's a Tarantino movie.
Yeah, it is, but I feel like it's one of his weaker films because, like, usually he does tells all these stories that eventually converge and there's a big payoff.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there was never a time in Django that I was not entertained by something, or that didn't have my full attention. Or if we look at The Inglourious Basterds, again, everything was building towards something, and you were being entertained. Whereas at Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, though yes, the ending was your gratifying Tarantino ending.
Yeah.
There were times leading up to it where I'm just like, why am I even watching this?
That's fair.
kind of bored with this. So I would argue this is actually one of his weaker films where it's just. I mean, he could have cut out stuff, and I think that's what's going to cause him to lose this Oscar. It's great that he's nominated. It's just.
Well, that's similar to me. We also have like 1917 up there, Jojo's Rabbit up there, and I mean both those. I don't know particularly if Jojo's Rabbit will win Best Picture. I'm happy it was nominated, but I don't know if it was the best picture of the year personally.
I'm actually surprised that Jojo Rabbit was. And not because I didn't love it. I love that movie, and that's one of my favorite movies of the year. But because it's kind of comedic at times, so was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at times, but I would have never guessed that it would have been nominated to begin with.
Personally, I could see it. It does feel a bit Hollywood. It's also very unique in how it approaches the source material, and I think that's kind of what they're going for.
And the message is great too. Of the whole let's cut out this bullshit between people and whatever, and actually take care of each other. That's a great message. But it surprised me when I saw it on the list, and I was just like, that's interesting.
My dark horse for this would again be Parasite, because that movie, it came out of nowhere and just swept people off.
Which one do you think is going to win?
Which one do I think is going to win? It's probably, I'm thinking Irishman. That's not my favorite movie of the year, but I think that's the one that stands the best chance overall.
I agree with you that it's probably going to win.
Yeah.
Because, it is an epic film.
Yeah.
It does include a lot of great talent, great director, great actors, great cinematography. Everything was
on point.
So
there it is. Filmmaker's Basement, Best Picture of the Year, The Irishman.
All right. I believe we have enough time to talk about the snubs.
So now our favorite part of this whole thing. Let's talk about those people who didn't get involved. But in addition to that, we also have a couple upcoming movies we wanted to talk about.
Let's start with the snubs and then talk about the movie.
That's very fair. So for me, I would say one of the biggest snubs of this year was The Lighthouse. It was only nominated for one category, and that was cinematography. Totally valid. The cinematography of that movie was absolutely amazing. Every shot was beautiful in its own weird and kind of messed up ways sometimes. I feel like I would have liked to see it in other roles as well, especially even Best Director. I think that was, it's just a movie that could have done a lot more at the Oscars than it did. Same thing for Knives Out for me. I feel like it's not like Best Picture material, but there are a lot of elements of that movie that could have been, that could have been appreciated.
I did not see The Lighthouse, but I did see Knives Out. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and if you haven't seen it, I do recommend you go see it.
A great experience.
And I do feel like it should have been there for something, whether it's Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best...
Ooh, Best Supporting Actor would have been a good one for that movie.
Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
Best Director. I mean, like, there was a lot of good in there.
Yeah.
But it didn't make any of the top lists, unfortunately.
I know. It's really disappointing,
So,
honestly.
That's slightly disappointing. Can't... Right now, like, I'm just having a blank moment on any other movies that came out this year.
It's a little difficult sometimes thinking about it, because I feel like there were definitely a lot of good movies in 2019, but like they were all kind of mentioned already is the thing. Like everything else that kind of came out was very.
All right.
Actually,
I thought of one.
No, I was thinking Endgame.
Yes.
Endgame being snubbed for because. While I will admit, like, okay, even I'm not a big Marvel person. Even I watched Endgame eventually, and you know what? Pretty good overall.
Yeah, but I feel like Robert Downey Jr. getting snubbed because this was one of his best roles.
Yeah, this was a good role.
And you would think he would at least be nominated. I know Disney was pushing it at the end.
Yeah.
Obviously, he didn't get it. But other than that, I do feel like he kind of got snubbed a little bit. But let's move on to the
movies coming out this week. Oh boy, oh golly, let me tell you, Jimmy. So that concludes our Oscar show, at least for now. So there were many categories. There are more categories than we had time to cover, so let's put that aside, put a nail in that coffin. Let's talk about the movies that are coming out this week. We got Birds of Prey, and The Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. And that's all we got. So Jimmy, I'll get to what I think about this in a minute. Why don't you start us off for now?
First of all, I do think it's kind of weird that only one movie was listed on AMC's website or IMDb. But I'm looking forward to the movie just because I'm a superhero fan, boy type of thing. But I do have mixed feelings because it can go either here or there.
Yeah.
We don't have less than a minute, so...
So I think for me personally, DC's done this every single time. They release a good trailer and then the movie's horrible, so I have no faith that this movie's actually going to be any good. That's just me personally. I've heard there are some reviews that have come out already that are pretty, like, all right. So you know what? I'm going to, I will be hopeful for it. I will hope it does good because I would like to see DC at least get one good win in before everything goes to...
I hope it's good, but I won't be shocked if it sucks, and I won't be shocked if it's great.
Yeah.
DC just, it's a toss of the coin.
Yeah.
Anyways, thanks for watching The Filmmaker's Basement. I am Jimmy Lucarz.
I'm Brandon Gasparino. Have a good week, and that concludes our Oscar show.
Eddie will be back at some point after he's done saving the world.
He will.